Hi, fifth grade. I'm going to be moving on to kind of a combination of lesson 2 and 3, which is going to be focusing on organizing all that information that you collected from your sources. But before we do that, I am going to show you a book, an informational text that will help give us some ideas of how to organize things. Remember, this is a professional author, someone who has done this a lot, has been practicing it for a long time, so I don't expect you to be doing as much as they did, right? They wrote a whole book, but I do expect you to be organizing your information that you collected in a very logical way that will help your reader to better understand what you're writing about. So, this book, Who Settled the West, is obviously going to be about who settled the West. Now, that's a really broad topic. So to help their reader better understand, this author organized their informational writing into 13 different subtopics. We have the landscapes of the West, the first peoples, the early Europeans, settlers from the East, African American settlers, so on and so forth. And that's going to help us not only find information. Let's say I'm writing an essay and I need some information on African American settlers specifically. Well, it might be great to read this entire book. If I open it up and I look at African American settlers, I know that I can go to page 12 and find the information that I need. Let's look at the very first subtopic. Now, within this subtopic, the landscapes of the West, this author created more subtopics. So the landscape of the West is not a small place. It is broken up into multiple parts, as you can see here in this colored map. And we will talk about the graphics that you can use in your writing in a little bit. So they broke it up into the Great Plains, the Southwest, the Rockies, and the West Coast. And they have pictures associated with each as well. Now, this author, he could have told you all about the landscape of the West in one large paragraph, but it's so much easier for your brain to understand, and it helps the reader remember that information if we break it up so that we can find information, we can comprehend it, and it just makes a lot more sense. In terms of your essay, I want you guys to think about this. This book is about who settled the West. Your essay is about COVID-19. Now, just like there's different topics within who settled the West, you're going to have different topics within COVID-19. And the way you took notes actually kind of already helped you to organize that information. So I am going to make my little screen smaller and show you my finished notes. So you should have at least 3 different sources. If you took more, excellent. My first source was about vaccines. So I kind of know that might be a topic that I want to talk about. My second source is about flattening the curve. And my third source is about social distancing. Now, I can create topics within these or use the topics if I'm kind of having a hard time coming up with some of my own. I can use the topics that are already kind of created from the articles that you read. You want to think of this as little buckets, guys. So let's say that I'm going to do a little thinking here. I maybe want to talk about flattening the curve. But what's the topic of flattening the curve really going to be about? Like, how am I going to add my own thinking and my own perspective into that? So I might say that what I learned from flattening the curve is that we want to keep the numbers and cases of COVID-19 low so that our hospitals don't get overwhelmed. Well, I'm going to put this, I'm going to use some of that flattening the curve information, but I'm also going to think about my own experiences here, my own ideas. So when COVID-19 first came to the US, it actually came very close to us, right? The first cases were actually found here or near us in Seattle. And my aunt is actually a nurse at Evergreen Hospital, which was where the original outbreak was. So I might talk about her experience and like information that she shared with me, because I don't want to forget that in the future. And that could be my first topic, kind of flattening the curve and talking about like healthcare workers and healthcare workers I know. So I'm going to call my first topic the healthcare system. Now I'm going to think about topic 2. I want to talk about my experience. I don't like being home all the time. I miss my friends, I miss my family, and that kind of ties in with my last source, which was on social distancing. Social distancing is when we have to stay far away from people. And you know what? I'm not even going to call that topic anything else. Missing my friends and family, social distancing article. I know that I am going to have a lot to talk about in social distancing. Now, the last article that I looked at was talking about vaccines. There's a couple of different things that we could do here. I could, one, maybe not even make a topic 3, because vaccines are part of the healthcare system, really. I mean, I could tie it into here that like the healthcare system's overwhelmed and people, virologists, people who are studying viruses, they're trying to create vaccines to help us right now. Or I could create a new topic. So I could include it up here. That's kind of a first option. Or I could create my own topic here. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because my third topic that I want to talk about is like the unknown of the future. Being unsure of what school's going to look like next year. Being unsure of when we get to hang out with our friends again. Being unsure of where we go as a society from here. Our governor is starting to lay out plans of how we will reopen everything. But I'm going to call my third topic future. And I'm going to put information about vaccines in here, vaccine article. I'm going to put, what will school look like next year? Reopening the economy, ending the stay at home order. And I might have even more to go from here. Now, I have 3 topics. That's going to be 3 different paragraphs that I can write about. If you want to make one paragraph really big and maybe do 2 paragraphs instead of 3, that will be fine too. You're just organizing your information in a way that makes sense to you. And that is not like math, guys. It is not a straightforward problem. It is not 2 + 2 = 4. It is, you have to decide how to organize information in a way that makes sense to you. Remember when we were little and we used to play with our friends? I remember that I had a really big bin of different like toy animals. there's probably 100 different types of animals in here. I had everything from like dogs and cats to parrots, and like giraffes and alligators and panda bears. But when my friends and I decided to play with them, we always liked to play zoo. And everybody had a different idea of how they were going to make their zoo. I'm going to make this category over here, all different kinds of bears. But maybe another friend had an idea and said, well, I want to make it by, countries. So yeah, panda bear is a kind of bear, but I don't want him over with the grizzly bears because they live in North America. I think we should organize all the animals by what continent they're from. Right? We have different ways of organizing things, and that's what makes our writing special. So this is how I look to organize things, and you can use mine as a model, but it's really about what makes sense to you. So that is kind of how you're going to think about organizing your essays at first. And please give me a call if this is really hard for you. Ask mom and dad to give me a call because I'm more than willing to help you through this process of organizing. It's not an easy thing to do. Like I said, it's not like math. There's no straightforward answer. It just takes some real deep thinking.